So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Women in Translation Month program here at Delray Beach Public Library. My name is Isabella, and I'm the program coordinator here at the library, and I'm so happy to see you all here. This is an exciting time. This subject of women in translation and literature in translation is very near and dear to my heart. And I think this is probably our third annual program that we have offered since I've been working here to celebrate women in translation. So actually, this year, 2021, marks the 7th year since book blogger Yael Krizzuk started this endeavor to raise awareness of translated literature by women authors and to promote gender and cultural diversity in literary publishing. And you know, people can ask, well, why should you read books in translation? You know, why, when we have all these great American authors who are writing and publishing, why do we care about reading books in translation? And as a librarian and as someone who simply loves reading translated literature, there's just so much to know and learn about the world and about storytelling from reading books in translation. But that's me as a librarian speaking. So I actually read a blog recently, and the blogger asks this question. He says, to answer the question about why you should read literature in translation, he says, don't you want to see into the mind of someone who has lived a life you'll never live? You can read all the American crime novels and English love stories you want, but they'll never teach you something you don't already know or can't discover for yourself. Translated literature brings the world to you, and it's such a big, mysterious, and wonderful wide world. And that right there, like, just nails it on the head for me about why you should read books in translation, but especially women in translation. I think that right now, if you're watching the news and following the situation unfolding in Afghanistan, the first thing that has been popping into my head is suppression, and suppression of women's voices in particular. And I've been on Facebook, I keep seeing these things pop up where women authors and athletes and artists in Afghanistan right now are being urged to destroy their work. You know, hide your accomplishments and, you know, burn your novels and destroy your jerseys and destroy your medals, because to hide your accomplishment as a female artist. And that just is killing me, because women's voices are so important. And the last thing in the world we want to do is promote suppression of any kind. And as a library, you know, we're the place that promotes free and equal access, not only to people to come in and use our services, but also to authors. All authors everywhere can be a part of our library collection, because, you know, we don't censor and we don't suppress. So this, I'm just glad you're here, because this is like super important. This is a super important issue. And I'm so thrilled that we have Yael Krizzuk with us today. She is an Israeli novelist and literary translator. Her first novel, which I have right here, Grandma's Demons, was first published in Hebrew in 2020, and it immediately garnered critical acclaim. Her wonderful ability to tell a good story captured the readers and surprised the critics, who defined her writing as touching and hilarious at the same time. Grandma's Demons was translated into English by Mali Ahmed, and it was just released this year. And by the way, both books the book in both languages, both Hebrew and English, are available here at Delray Library with your library card. So you're welcome to come in and check it out. And I strongly encourage you to do so. I'm enjoying every word I've read so far. So anyway, getting back to Yael. So she lives in Rome with her family, and she is here today to share her story, her writing journey, and to read from this delightful book. Welcome, Yael.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Isabella, for inviting me and for the lovely words. I was actually blushed. I hope everyone can hear and see me well. So I was invited today to speak about the book. I'm gonna first present myself, because this is, I guess, the best way to get to know each other. And then I'll read you three segments of the book, which I chose because I love them. I think it's funny, and I think it's going to be a good way to draw a picture of who my grandma Michal was. So my name is Yael. Yael is an Israeli name, very common. It's from the Bible. One of the not so, I think there's not more than 3 non-Jewish women in the Bible who got to be there. She was a murderer, actually. She killed one of King David's enemies, and this is how she got to the Bible's Hall of Fame. And when I was born, my parents thought about other names, Shiri or Shira or something like that. And a couple of days later, my grandmother, Michal, she just burst into the room in the hospital, and she saw me. She looked at me, and she said, "Oh, Yaeli." And my parents just looked at each other, and they immediately understand there is no other choice. The name is given, and this is how I got my name, by my bossy grandmother, that after many years, I thought also she wrote a book, and this is why I wrote it. So I'm an Israeli, but I live in Rome. I live here for many years because I came here to work at the embassy, the Israeli embassy in Rome. And this is also where I met my husband. He's also Israeli. He was a medical student, and he did his residency here, and now he's working at the hospital. So we just stayed. We have 2 little kids, very sweet. And during all those years, we were living in Rome, but we got to travel a little bit. We've been 2 years in Tuscany, and also 1 year in Florida, next to you guys. My husband did a fellowship program in the Cleveland Clinics, and we were living in Weston. It's right next to you, and it was a great year. I loved it. Everyone there were referring to me in Spanish, but we had so much fun. Everything in the United States is so big and far away, and I think we even got lost once inside a shopping center. We looked for the car for more than an hour. I think it was the green grass something, if I remember the name. But I also got to get to know American people better, not from TV shows and movies. And I just love you guys. You are so overreacting and absolutely exaggerating with everything with you is so great. And I know her, she's amazing. And I was at that restaurant and I ate the best pizza ever. And I just felt you're spreading all this positive energy around you, and I just loved it. So thank you for a great year. So we were back in Italy, and this book I wrote when we were in Tuscany. We actually took a house with a great view in the middle of a vineyard, and it was a fairy tale, the best place I could think of writing a book. And when I grew up, my grandmother, she used to tell me all these stories about her growing up, and she repeated them so many times, and every time she finished one, she told me, "Well, are you writing this down?" One day you're gonna write a book about me. Everyone will read it and weep. She thought her life is such a big tragedy. Obviously, she's not Jesus Christ or something. She's just a woman who grew up in Israel, but still, I thought her stories are interesting enough and worth a book. So I'm gonna start by reading the very beginning of the book, and then I'm going to tell you about it some more. Because my grandma, the whole idea of the book was from one of the stories she used to tell me about her seeing demons or spirits when she was a little, and she really believed in that in a way that made me think that if it happened or it didn't, I don't know, but it possessed her in a way that made her a demon herself. So I'm gonna read, and then I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it. So on a cloudy September morning, Grandma Michal was sitting in front of a rerun of one of the most televised events in recorded history. She was in the same pose, in the same armchair, with the same waffle blanket with a print of oranges. She stared at the screen silently, and a deep sadness washed over her. "Look at all those horses they brought," she said to my Uncle Shlomo, who was making coffee. "Poor thing, she was a preschool teacher, you know." Princess Diana's funeral was in every newsflash, but my grandmother had missed the live broadcast since the Princess of Wales was buried on the Sabbath. The princess had died a week earlier in a mysterious car crash, and my grandmother, who wept for her like an actual Briton, was taking it pretty hard. "Oh, I can't stand the look of that bastard," she said, scrolling at the side of Prince Charles. "He went with that nasty piece of work. He cheated on her." "Who are you talking about, Ma?" asked Shlomo. "That bastard, Charlie." "Look how pretty she was. She was pretty, no?" "Yes, Grandma, very pretty." "Shlomo, make a cup of coffee for Yaeli, too." "It's okay, Grandma. I had some before I came over." "First they got divorced. Now she's dead, poor thing." Because obviously divorce and death are the worst thing that can happen to you. I'm kidding, of course. Yeah, she really was, I added in an attempt to comfort her. "You should also get married already," she suddenly said in a surprisingly practical tone that didn't suit her current mood. Here we go, I thought to myself. You're not getting any younger. I know how old you are. I have it written down in my calendar. Grandma, every ruthless divorce starts with a wedding. I'm focusing on school right now, I said, hoping to change the subject. Good. Take care of your future. Don't die stupid. They come to visit everyone someday. Who comes to visit? I asked. Ma, enough with that nonsense, Shlomo yelled from the kitchen. Grandma looked at me and winked. It seems like she didn't care to elaborate, fearing she would consider the lunatic. Her left eye started tearing up, and she took a perfume handkerchief out of her sleeve. These were not tears of sadness, but of knowledge. They exist, she whispered to me, wiping her stinging eye, and I believed her. So this is how the book opens. And when I said that I believed her, I'm not sure. I don't believe in demons or spirits. I don't think the actual thing happened, but I do believe she wasn't lying, because she was, until very old age, telling me that story, the fear, still fear in her eyes. And she was very specific about the details, and that I believe her. She saw something. She was a little girl, and she maybe thought she saw something, and I believe that, because it was maybe something that affected her in some way. And when I said that she became a demon, I obviously didn't meant it in a bad way, but she was making a big fuss around her, like a storm. And my grandmother, she just fought and hated everyone and fought with everyone, and she made her family lives miserable, her husband. And she had this big thing with the neighbors. She didn't like them, and with her sisters-in-law. So the next thing I'm going to read to you, just to give you a sense of who she was. It's a story. She's already an old woman, and she was living in a building, and she hated the neighbors, because God knows because what. And I'm going to read to you this part, and then I'm going to tell you about what happened next. And it's a true story, I have to say, because it was in a time that I was born, and I saw everything happening. It's crazy and hilarious at the same time, I think. So no need to show you have money was one of the life tips she gave us, her grandchildren. Money comes and goes and then comes again, and if the neighbors know we came, they come too, she added, for coffee. Of all the neighbors in the building, Grandma took comfort only in one family that lived in the apartment above her. There were two parents and two children who got eager praises from the most judgmental old lady in the building. The mother's name was Batya. She plays the accordion in kindergartens, Grandma used to explain. Her husband, Aaron, is a kind man, always asking how I am. And the kids wander around at night, but the girl is a dancer and the boy is nice as his father, she concluded. You know, Yaeli, one time they saw me with the groceries. Straight away, they grabbed the bags and brought them home for me. Yes, Grandma, I know. You told me already. I'm just saying, good kids who wander around at night. Yes, but like angels. Anyhow, Batya and her perfect family were Grandma's only source of joy out of all the building's residents, who according to her were all greedy. When Ruchama had a dispute with the Sharabi family, God knew what about, Grandma had so much fun as if she were watching a soap opera full of cunning schemes. All day long, they have coffee together. Now look at them, hating like the devil. That was the essence of her theory of good neighboring relations. Keep your distance. Greeting and smiles in the hallway. But she drank her coffee by herself, in front of the TV, mild and sweet as tea, in a clear glass, and always with a teaspoon in, as it added to the flavor. One day they left. Batya and Haron and their two kids moved to the suburbs. His mother passed away and left him the house, you see, she explained it to me. This was on Monday. Grandma sat in the living room chair by the big window and watched the movers load up the truck. It's a shame they're leaving, she whined to Shlomo, and instantly added, Look what a big refrigerator they have. The apartment upstairs stood empty for a week. Grandma knew it had been sold to some family and wondered why they weren't moving in. By Grandma's standards, a proper family consisted of a schoolteacher mother, an engineer father, gifted children, observant of Shabbat, and associated with a doctor. In other words, the new family that replaces the angels who lived above her, who may have gone to heaven and only said they were moving to the suburbs, didn't stand a chance. For a month, the new neighbors renovated the apartment. A month of wall breaking, wood sawing, and intolerable drilling noises. For an entire month, Grandma sat in her living room armchair in a deafening racket and said nothing. She looked up at the ceiling with loathing and uncharacteristically only cursed in her heart. For a month, Grandma lived in a terrible ruckus and stayed silent. The day they finished renovating and it went quiet, Grandma announced she was hearing noises. And from that moment began a story that is so crazy. She went mad about that noises. She was convinced they were from the Russian mafia, and the noises she hears is a 2-ton machine that of money printing, and she did everything to try to kick them out, and she was complaining with everyone, with us. She called the city hall and she called the police department, and nothing helped. She once even threw salt on their car because her mother, it's like a superstition that her mother told her, and she used to open the window when they walked the street and yelled at them. It was horrible. We didn't know what to do, and at the end my uncle asked his friend to dress up as a police officer. And they came to the apartment, they came to the building, and they went up to the apartment. It was, of course, arranged the night before with the neighbors. And he did this whole charade. He like knocked on the door saying, police, open up. And they opened the door, and the neighbors gave him a carton box that they prepared. And he needed to just take the box and leave the building while my grandmother is looking out of the window. And it was a way to convince her. It was a police officer that came to the apartment and confiscated this money printing machine, and that was the end of the story. But no, she wasn't convinced. She said the box was too small, and well, she had other complaints. And anyway, it was horrible. And at the end, they had to move. My uncle sold the apartment and they moved to another block. And this thing to me now, years after, is hilarious. But at the time, it was crazy. And it wasn't the first time my grandmother had to move because she didn't get along with the neighbors. Years before, she moved from another apartment where she lived with her sisters-in-law. They were neighbors, and she had a war with them. She used to fight with them. She hated them for no reason. The same thing with the neighbors. There were no noises, of course. And she had to move because they didn't get along. And the next one that I'm going to read is about the day my mother was born. And she's many years after she left the house where she was sharing a yard with her sisters-in-law, she still had this war with them. a war that only she was doing, of course. And I would like to read it to you also because it's about my mother. The day she was born, it was election day in 1959, and she was born and grew up to be exactly like my grandmother, although she don't want to admit it. And maybe someday, if I'll have the courage, I'll write a book about her too. I don't know. I still don't know. But this one is very funny, and it also helps me to draw that picture about her and her character of my grandmother. So earlier that morning, Michal had been heavenly standing in front of the kitchen stove, frying potatoes. Pinchas, her husband, and my grandfather, Pinchas walked into the kitchen, panting, seeming like he was in a hurry to get back home. He immediately walked over to the prepared bowl of fries and snatched one with 2 fingers, even though Michal warned him they were steaming hot. The fry burned his palm and he blew on it, juggling from hand to hand like a flaming ball of fire. The patience of a monkey, determined Michal. Have you been to the ballot box yet? No, I was at my brother's, he said, and put the not yet cold fry in his mouth. Ahara and lever, he said as his tongue was burning. What? Asked Michal, sword face. Zohara is in labor. Zohara is her sister-in-law. Zohara is in labor, he answered after he swallowed the fry. The fork with the scorching fry dropped from Michal's hand, and her expression said only one thing: anger. Michal, she turned the flame off and pragmatically wiped her hands on her apron. Well, what are you waiting for? She said to Pinchas. Are you taking me or not? Where? To the hospital, that's where. What have you got there? She went to give birth? I'll show her. I'm giving birth today too, you hear? But you don't even have contraction, Pinchas choked out. Don't you know you don't need contraction to deliver a baby? Replied Michal as she quickly packed her robe into a small bag. I'm pretty sure you do, Pinchas answered. Then you're wrong, said Michal in a self-righteous tone. Have you seen my slippers? You're wearing them. So, because Zohara went, you want to go? Pinchas asked in an oath and sat down on a kitchen chair. What are you sitting down for? Grumbled Michal. The baby's coming out. Come on, let's go. How is the baby coming out now? Thought Pinchas. A moment ago, he was helping with lunch. This silly war must end, he said wearily. Oh, she started that, determined Michal. Why is she running to the hospital at the crack of dawn? Are you serious? Pinchas thought he was losing his mind, but Michal was already standing outside, ready to go, with a jacket and a little bag on her shoulder. Don't you want to wait for contractions? There will be contraction. By the time we get there, they will come. The world has its own rules. So did fate. And anyway, God determines what everyone will say and do. But Michal's deliveries has Michal's rules. That was one thing God stayed out of. If Michal decided today was the day, no one could undermine that decision. Not even the obstetrician who determined she wasn't dilated yet. Michal informed him that she would not batch from the ER, and if he didn't believe her, It was his problem because not all facts were scientific. Sometimes they were based on experience too. And according to her previous deliveries, she could determine with certainty that would be one today. There would be one today. Finally, to end her argument, Michal added in reproof that a pregnant woman's intuition wasn't something you could learn to diagnose in medical school. By lunchtime, her water broke and she was 8 centimeters dilated. Michal told the doctor it was all in the mind, and he insisted it was a medical miracle. At 4:45 p.m., Michal and Zohara were pushing and screaming in 2 adjacent living rooms. It was a tight race to the last minute, and at the finish line, 2 baby girl cousins were born on the same day. So that's a true story. I have to say that this was how it was told to me, and I was just writing it. So I don't want to take any responsibility for things that I didn't made up. But it was backed by my aunts and my uncles. So yes, the day my mother was born went like that. And this was my grandmother. She was storming around her. She fought with everyone. She made noise. She had this big voice and she made so much noise. And I thought she wrote the book. So if you would like to get to know her better, you are mostly kindly invited. That's it. I'm not gonna read to you anymore. So you can and I don't know, Isabella, tell me, you want me to speak about other aspects of the book, about the translation, or we can leave time for a conversation? Like, people can ask whatever you like, and also maybe tell me stories about their grandmothers. I would love to hear.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Yael. Does anyone have any questions for our visiting author today? I have like a whole boatload, but I'm the librarian in the room. So this is, it's up to you guys. Does anybody have any questions? You're welcome to unmute yourself and turn your cameras on so we can see your pretty faces, and, shoot out a question if you have any.
Everyone is shy. So many shy people.
Apparently. Okay, I'll go first. So, so does your grandmother, is she still alive, and does she know that you wrote a book about her?
No, I didn't want to say that because it's a spoiler to the book, but no, she died a few years ago, and I read the book also only after she did. She doesn't know, but I think she's I'm not that spiritual, but I like to say that she's looking, she's at heaven, bubbling and making noise and making God out of his mind, and maybe also bragging there with you see, they wrote a book about me. So I think maybe it goes like that, but obviously
that's great.
I've never been there, so I can't say.
What kind of a response to the book have you received from your family? Because especially the family members who knew her as well,
Of course, and I have to say that I didn't spare anyone. I used all real names, and everything happened. But I didn't say anything bad about anyone, and I really love my family, and I everything I wrote, I stand behind it, and they are great people. And I also wrote, I think the only person who could be mad about me is my grandmother, but she's not here to do that. So I got great response. Everyone was telling me that this was exactly hers, um, and they enjoyed it really. They
So you,
laughed and they cried and they were excited. So
yes, just hearing your readings was funny. There's a lot of comedy, and there's a lot of comedy in life, that's for sure. Um, so you wrote the book, you said, when you were living in Tuscany. So what inspired you to write the book at that time? And
um,
you know,
it wasn't inspiration it was as it was an opportunity, because when we were in Rome I was working, and when we moved to Tuscany for it was my husband went to it was working at the hospital there, and I was there in the middle of all the beauty, and I was just, but I wasn't born, but I had much to do. I had all the old village people. They came to the house greeting me with tomatoes from the garden, and they were all so sweet. And I drank coffee with this one and coffee with this one, and I heard the birds singing, and everything was it. But I had not so much to do. I work from home, and I do translate for many hours a day, but still it was an opportunity because I had a lot of time on my hands. The kids are in school, and my husband, he was just, he bought me, I think I wrote it somewhere, he bought me an office chair, and he said to me, sit, this is your opportunity, just write the novel you always wanted to write. And I did.
that's awesome. How long did it take you to write it?
Um, less than a year. Um, but the editing part was very long. The editor was a very busy woman.
Sure, sure. It looks like we do have a question. Go
I
ahead.
do have a question. Hi, Yael.
Hi.
You're a very smiley, sweet, adorable person. And when you talk about your grandma, it seems to me you're telling us she was difficult, really difficult, fought with everyone, but you're always doing it with a big smile and a lot of love for her. She
Um,
what you call a character, and she must have had reasons to be like that, which you didn't go into, like her childhood or anything. But uh, did you see a lot of her? Did you visit with her, eat dinner in her house, function with a grandma that loved you? And did she love you? Did she share?
um, I, I think she loved me very much. I grew up at my grandma's house. My mother got divorced in a very young age, and my grandmother, she raised us because my mother had to work a lot. So for a long time in my childhood, I called her mom to my grandmother. We were really connected, and I loved her because I obviously didn't suffer from this whole storming craziness that she had for other people. And it's also in the book. I've explained it that she might have done a lot of wrong to a lot of people, but to us, her grandchildren were 9. She was sweet as honey. I don't know if it's like in old age, she thought about things that she did and maybe regretted and wanted to fix the way she was, but it wasn't like that with us. So this is why I allow myself to look at things in a comic way. I don't think my mother or my aunt are looking at the past or living or growing up with my grandmother in the same way.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Very good. How long? Oh, Bonnie has her hand up. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say hi, Yaeli,
How
and
are you?
hi to Mickey and
We
Missy
know.
and David. And I think your grandmother would have been very proud of you because I think this is what she would want you to do. And it's an inspiration to us because I think it tells us that so many of us have stories to tell and that to journal them, not necessarily get to the point where we make them into a book, but just for ourselves. First of all, it's therapeutic. And it's good to write those things down because then you don't remember them later on. But I think it's great. It's good to see you. And say hi to the kids for me, Nikki. Nikki, you're so fine.
I have to admit first that we know each other when we lived in Florida. Bonnie was the school teacher of my daughter, Michaela, and I missed you.
What a great reunion. Awesome. Thank you, Bonnie, for being here. That's so great.
My pleasure.
I moved. I'm really excited at the moment.
That's great.
Next is a movie.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Well, actually, the next one is it's all comedies that is from my mind. Nothing real about it. Hope
So
you like it.
Are
too.
you working on another book then?
Yes, I actually am about to finish it, and then, well, I'm about to finish it, but from that moment I finished writing until it comes out, it takes a lot of time and work. So I'm not saying nothing. For now, I'm quiet.
How long did it take to get Grandma's Demons translated into English? And did you know the translator, or do you know her?
Yes, she's my good friend, and I chose her because I think she is very talented, and I approached her and made her an offer. Maybe you want to translate the book, and she thought first she thought it's a big thing, like maybe she was afraid a little bit, but I said, let's do a chapter or two and see. And she did. She sent me first two chapters, and I just loved that. She I'm not a native speaker, but she is. But I loved it, the way she kept the humor, and we did it together. Every chapter she finished, she sent it to me, and then I saw that she like understood exactly what I wanted to say, and we did it together. After that, it went to an editor, and then proofreading and everything. But the translation was in collaboration with her. It's a person that I really love, and I think it was great. I loved it.
That's awesome. You don't always hear good stories about the author and the translator always getting along very well. Sometimes it can be a rocky road. So that, that's good.
It took 4 months.
Okay.
To do it. Like we are friends and everything, but we settled a deadline and a price before, so we won't get like that. And I just told her that for me, a book long like this, when I translate into Hebrew, it takes about 4 months. So we just took this 4 months, and we did it. It was
awesome.
She sat down and she did it.
So, and you work as a translator. So, what kind of translation work do you do?
Well, I translate books from Italian or English into Hebrew. I work for editor. So I'm sorry. I work for the editorial. I just went before we've started. I've chopped garlic because I've made dinner, and I did like that, and it was horrible. I'm sorry. So I work for editorials in Israel, and they send me historical romans are my favorite, but I'm not picky. So I do also young adults and mystery and everything, mostly from Italian. I also did from English. I translated 2 books. Only one of them was published. The second one, I think with the COVID thing, everything is like back down. So I translated it into Hebrew.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yes, I really like it. It's Hebrew, modern Hebrew is such a young language, and it doesn't have, unfortunately, the vocabulary.
Oh, she's frozen. Hopefully we can get her back.
Isabella,
Yes. Hi,
I'd
Fran.
like to know what languages her children speak.
Okay. Hopefully we can get her back
Okay.
and we can ask her that question. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, where'd she go?
So I'm not sure where I was cut off. And if you heard me, I just wanted to say that at the beginning you spoke about why reading translated books, and for us, the Hebrew readers, or in Israel, it's a big problem because there is only limited books in Hebrew, because it's a very young language, we can call it. So I see it as a mission to bring Hebrew readers books from all over the world. It's important.
Yes, it is. That's an amazing mission. I think that's so cool. You don't think about, I mean, the world really becomes smaller when you, like in your case, when you're translating Italian works into Hebrew, that brings the world of Italy, the culture, the customs, the stories to
Right.
Hebrew readers that would not normally be accessible. And I think that's the beauty of translated literature, like I said in my opening, and how important this is. So I applaud you for doing that. That's amazing. And actually, we have a question from Fran. Do you want to go ahead and ask her?
Yes. Hi, Yael, thank you so very much. Can you tell us what your children speak, what languages they speak, what you speak at home?
We speak Hebrew at home, but they speak Italian at school. My older daughter, she did a year in Florida, so she remember a little bit English. Now she's studying at school, but Italian and Hebrew. They speak Italian in a very. They speak Hebrew in an Italian accent, a very heavy one.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's great.
My daughter, she's 6, and she's already correcting me with the Italian. So.
Oh.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
You shouldn't say it like that. Okay.
So do you think you're like your grandma? Like in terms of your personality and your attributes, whatever, do you think you're like her?
I don't know. I would very like to say no, because I definitely don't treat people like she did.
Sure.
But I do have her sense of humor and a sense of like having fun and take everything in a positive way. At least at the end, as an old woman, as I knew her, she was like that. So I think in a certain age, I became a thinking person, and I chose. I don't know if it's right to say, or I don't know, but I chose my own personality. I chose to be a certain person, and I go down by that. It's a process she didn't do, obviously, and So we're not alike. I don't think so. But there are many things that I've learned from her and took from her. Yes, that's it.
Sure, sure. You can pick all the good stuff and apply that to your life. That's
Yes.
really good.
Like, don't die stupid. It's probably something to my kids also.
But yeah, don't die stupid. That's awesome. That's why we have libraries, by the way. Does anyone else have any questions for Yael before we sign off here? I appreciate so much you being here. I discovered her through a random internet search, and I could tell immediately that she was going to be amazing. And when I read the first couple pages of the book, because I'm one of those people, you read the first few sentences, and if it draws you in, then it's a keeper. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And I think that both copies of the English version are checked out right now, but I strongly encourage you to put it on hold and snatch it up when it comes back, because it is fabulous. I love it so much. And when I reached out to Yael on Facebook, she was probably like, oh my God, who is this crazy person? But she responded and
I was flattered, actually. Very much. No.
I mean, I think if there's any benefit at all to be gleaned from the COVID in terms of us having to be separated from each other, is that it's opened up the world in a different way, where we can meet like this on Zoom, because I would never be able, in our little tiny library budget, I would never be able to fly her over here, as much as I would love to have her be here in person. But yet here we are making these connections and having this great conversation and exploring, great literature. And I love that about this. And I appreciate you all taking your time out on your, busy Tuesday afternoon to join us here. And Yael, I know it's like 9 o'clock there, 9 p.m. And thank you so very much for being here and for being so open and friendly and honest. And I totally enjoyed our visit so much. And if no one else has anything else, this is your last chance to ask a question or to make a comment. Go ahead.
I think I'm on. It's just a comment. I know I will definitely read the book. And I'm intrigued by Grandma. I'm intrigued by her. Human beings are made up of so many dimensions. Mm-hmm. She lived with her husband. Did she live for many, many years with Pincus?
Yes.
Yeah, well, somehow they worked it out.
Yeah, well,
they worked it out.
He didn't run away. He didn't run away. She killed him.
He didn't run away. She must have had sides to her that were intriguing. And there are other characters in literature, real people, they have these feelings about demons. They have beliefs, and they part of their body. Where it comes from, other writers have written characters that are filled with demons, spirits that they believe in, and are demons themselves. I'm going to read it and find out more. What was her first name?
Michal.
Michal. I want to know her. I'm sorry I can't meet her. Someday soon I will.
There's a little part in the book where my grandfather, he was coming. He got back. He had a flat tire on his bicycle, and he got back earlier home that day. And he was resting outside, and suddenly he felt bad, like he's having a heart attack, and he was dizzy. And then he saw this angel who yelled at him, "Oh, what are you doing? Get up, get up." And he was like awake and saw my grandmother, and he was so relieved not to have a heart attack, or not to, he just felt bad. And he said to her, "Oh, your noise and craziness are keeping me alive," something like that. It's in the book. So yes, there are also other parts to that.
I love it. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Everyone here in the room, a lot of you, I think, are writers or want to be writers. And it's like, remember the stories. You know, if you've got people in your life that may not be with you much longer, but whose stories you need to remember, ask them, you know, record their stories, because all of these stories are so important and need to be preserved for future generations. And I just think it's great. And I really applaud you for your bravery to write about a family member in such a candid way. Because I'm not sure that would fly in my family, but hey, maybe I'll write under a pseudonym sometime.
This is why I said before that maybe one day, if I have the courage, I'll write about my mother, but probably it would be after she, well, I don't know. Yeah. I really like my mother. I don't want to kill her.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much. Best wishes with all of your upcoming projects and with the new book. And once it's published in Hebrew, if you have it translated to English, please email me and let me know. I will. You know, I'll do my best to promote you here in Florida. So,
great. I hope you like it. I write the books that I write are very Israeli, but if you like to know other cultures, it's a great thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Isabella, thank you very much for inviting me. I had a great fun.
Thank you for being here. Goodbye, everyone.